and they're already pre-weighed and measured. All right, so I just took my flour and my margarine from the refrigerator. Remember that when you're doing short press pastry, you need to ensure that the ingredients are and the utensils are kept cool as possible. Why? Because we do not want the fat to melt, because if the fat melts, it will mean that the product will result as being fault, right? So there will be some fault that you have to deal with at the end. All right, so here, as I said before, I have my 16 ounces or 1 pound of flour, and I have my 8 ounces of fat. All right, so I'm going to use my palette knife.
No, show them the house knife, they're not palette knife.
I'm going to use my palette knife to flatten the flour to make a little.
Or any knife.
Well,
or
so,
any knife.
Or I have my. Oh, you can also use your dinner knife.
Yeah.
So I'm going to add my fat. So as you can see, I would have cut them up in smaller pieces so that when you're cutting your fat into the flour, it will be easier to handle. Here is my pastry blender that I'm going to use to cut my fat into the flour. If you do not have a pastry blender at home, you can use your dinner knives, 2 dinner knives. All right, or you can use your palette knife. All right, so I'm going to show you. So here are my dinner knives. So if you do not have a pastry blender, you can use a dinner knife and cut your fat into the flour. All right, so when you're using your dinner knives, you use a crisscross motion. So let me remove these to ensure that you're seeing. So I'm going to put my fat into the flour. So the aim is for you to cut the fat into the flour so that the fat becomes very small and the flour will coat it, and what you're looking for, the end result is supposed to be something looking like fine breadcrumbs. All right, so you're supposed to have a fine breadcrumbs texture. All right, so this is just to show you, if in case you do not have a palette knife or a pastry blender, you can use your dinner knives to get the job done. In the interest of time, I'm going to continue with my pastry blender. So you cut your fat into the flour. Oops, it is still there. Don't worry about that. Just ensure that you clean up. All right, so as I cut my fat into the flour, I go back and forth with my pastry blender. And I press on the fat so that it will break the fat up. As I said before, cutting the fat into the flour, the aim is to get the fat into very small pieces. And as
breadcrumbs.
And as the fat is being cut into small pieces, the flour will coat the fat, and you will get a fine breadcrumb looking texture. So you try to work as quickly and as clean as possible. So if you notice that I'm turning the bowl so that I can get all the fat pieces.
I want to stop in 5, 4, 3, 4, 1.
15 to 20 minutes.
Hungry no more because it's still empty. I just need those type flour.
All right, so there's the ball. I'm going to cling wrap it and put it in the refrigerator. Then you can do your cleaning up. Then we're going to roll out. So I'm going to scrape off excess dough from the dough, and I'm going to dredge a little. I use the sieve so we get uniformity.
Yeah.
Unroll, and I'm going to continue.
Yeah.
So we have to continue rolling. Okay, so it seems as if we are about there, about 1/8 of an inch thickness, so you can see. All right, so what I'm going to do, since we're making a pie, I'm going to measure to ensure that the dough is wide enough to fit into the pie dish. So see, I've measured. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to remember that when you're removing the pie, you're always to roll it onto the cutting board, onto the rolling pin to prevent stretching of the dough. All right, remember, if you stretch the dough, then that will result in
I carry so much. Number one, and you put. Right.
All right, so I'm going to roll it over onto the pie dish. All right.
425. 425.
So now that I roll it over, trying not to stretch. Try not to stretch.
All right, go on.
So ensure that the dough is fully into the pie pan. You use your finger and lightly press along the inside to feel if there are any air pockets. As long as you're not feeling any air pockets, then you know that it is completely in. All right, so
Put it across. Put it across. Yeah.
what I'm going to do, since this is the excess and we're going to be making something else, I'm just going to cut this off, then I'm going to show you how to cut off the excess pastry from the pie. So you lift, you use the back of a knife. Here I have my palette knife, but if you do not have the palette knife, you can always use the back of your knife, and you're going to cut away from you. So you're going to cut along the edge, ensure that you cut away. Alright, here you go. So this is going to be an open pie. So what I'm going to have to do, I'm going to have to bake this pie crust blind. Baking blind meaning that we're going to bake it without filling. So to prevent sogginess, what I'm going to have to do, I'm going to prick the pie, meaning that I'm going to punch small holes all around the base of the pie to prevent, so that the steam will escape when it is being baked. So I use my fork and I'm ensuring that the holes go right through. So here I have pricked the bottom of my pie. Then I'm going to bake it blind in an oven 425 degrees Fahrenheit. All right, we bake it at high temperature because we do not want the fat to melt and cause the product to be soggy. I have rolled out my second piece of pastry, and this time we're going to make some cups and patties. Alright, so for the cups you can either use your savory or sweet filling. Today we'll be using a savory filling for our cups. Alright, so in order to get the pastry inside here, we have to pre-cut it. Alright, so today I'm using this shape. This is a square shape cookie cutter to cut.
Keep your hands down.
And so here's my cookie cutter. For those of you who do not have access to a cookie cutter, if you have a container, a round container, or a cup, a wide mouth cup, you can also use that.
Alright.
So, alright. And if you want to cut out squares and you do not have a square shaped cookie cutter like this, you can always use your knife, the back of the knife, to mark out the shape, and then you can do your cutting. But for today, what we're going to be using our square shaped cookie cutter and our circular shape here to give us some patties and couplets. Alright, so you put it as close as possible to the edge because you do not want to waste the pastry. And you're going to press down
And spin.
and spin.
That's it.
Again, press down and spin. There you go.
One more.
Alright. And okay, we can get another one.
Right.
One more, press down and spin. There we go. Alright, so I'm going to show you how to use this same principle. Press. And get another one here, press. Alright, so try to cut them as close together as possible so you do not waste the pastry or you waste the dough. Alright, so
Can I
this
get one more? Can I get one more? Just use it up. So show them how you use it up.
Alright, so see, we're using up the pastry. So this one didn't cut through all the way, so I'm just using the back, the tip of my knife, and I'm just ensuring that it is loose. So basically what you do, since you would have cut through, you just lift and it will, the excess will pull off and leave the shapes on the table. There you go. You can put this into a ball and you can re-roll if you have more filling. Normally what you do is to put this in a cling wrap and put it back inside the refrigerator. Alright, so I'm going to show you how we're going to create our cup. So remember, when you're working with pastry, try not to stretch the pastry. Alright, so we're easing it in. Alright, so as it goes in, so now I'm going to try and open it up so that we can put our filling. Alright, and remember that we always prick.
Put the square one.
Alright, so I'm going to use one of the squares. So I'm putting it in at an angle.
Another square one. I can do all of the square ones.
So you shape it. Let me put them in. Then I will prick them afterwards. So I'm using all my squares for the couplets, and then I'm going to show you how to make patties using the circular shape. Remember, when you're making your pastry, you do not need to grease the pan because the pastry itself already has a very, very high fat content. Alright, so that they're in there, what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to prick them, then I put them to rest. So after I have cut out my circles for my patties, what I'm going to be doing now, I'm going to be putting in the filling. But as you put in the filling, you have to be careful not to put too much filling on the inside. So I'm using my teaspoon and I'm using
shredded chicken.
So for my filling here, I'm using shredded chicken. You can use vegetables, you can use ackee and saltfish, you can use kalaloo, whatever it is that you have. You can use the curried chicken, you can use beef, pork, just ensure that it has no bones. Alright, so today I will be using shredded chicken. So it is stewed and I ensure that it is in very small pieces. So I'm using a teaspoon because I do not want too much filling on the inside. So I'm going to put it on in the center, then I'm going to fold over one end to meet the other. All right, so I'm using, so what I need to do, I need to apply some cold water to seal, to help to seal. So I'm applying it to one side, then I'm putting the next side down, and I'm using my fork to seal it, because we do not want the filling to spill out. This. All right, so I'm going to take it up and put it onto my tray, and I'm also going to prick. All right, so that tray, remember that when we're doing pastry, we use on grease baking trays or pie pans, or muffin pans if we're making cups. All right, so I'm using my cold liquid to seal, to help to seal, and I'm using my fork to complete.
What time is it? You have to time the thing you're putting in.
All right, so I'm pricking it once, and that will assist with preventing the sogginess in the pastry. All right, so I'm going to put this to rest, and then I'm going to put it inside the oven, 25 degrees Fahrenheit, and I'm going to bake it for 20 to 25 minutes.
Okay, students, this is the finished product, a baked blind pastry. So yours should look something like this. All right, what we're going to do now, we're going to add the filling. That is the stew chicken filling that I had shown you earlier on, and then we're going to put it back to bake for about another 5 to 10 minutes, depending on how it looks. Okay. All right, students, this is one filling that you can put in the pie. This is basically some chicken breast and vegetable. You can put whatever you want on it. So if you want it to be darker, you probably want to add some more soy sauce or browning. We didn't want it any darker. You can choose, this mix is a California mix. So this is broccoli, carrot, and cauliflower. Or you can use mixed vegetable, or whatever other vegetable that you like. So this now is the pastry with the filling. We're going to put it back to bake for another 5 to 10 minutes, and then it should be finished. Try to ensure that when you're doing yours, it doesn't have too much liquid in it, because you're going to get a soggy bottom pastry. Remember Paul spoke about that? So try and ensure that you don't have a lot of liquid in it. Or if you have liquid in it, it needs to be thick. Okay. Okay guys, so these are the finished products: the patty, the cup, and also the pie. And yours can look prettier than ours. Alright, you notice the garnish on this one? Lovely. Ensure that you work out some very lovely garnish to go on your dishes. Alright, Mrs. Sean, you want to break one of the patties so that they can see the filling, please?
Sure.
There you go. So on the week of the 25th, we're going to get our practical going, guys. And trust me, this should taste as good as it looks. All right.